Back to the present day. Roger and Melinda had just finished eating their dinner. 2 tins of cat food, followed by a tin of outdated fruit salad, which was a very luxurious meal considering uncontaminated fruits, meat and vegetables was getting extremely hard to come by since the bread factories and farms became obsolete due to the vegetable pickers and cattle farmers being eaten alive. Roger was just about to thank his beautiful girlfriend Melinda, stroke chef, for the wonderful selection of mainly stale animal feed she put together when the CB radio came to life.
Roger, do you copy? This is Michael. We need to talk. Roger that, Mike. Loud and clear. We've got some new players in town. They've already killed at least 1 civilian and exterminated the active zombies they found wandering about in Lyndhurst 2 days ago before we arrived there tonight. We've had reports from an eyewitness stating a man wearing a gorilla suit was responsible for the attack, which I find hard to believe. You and Melinda need to be on your guard at all times, and for Christ's sake, don't get caught with your pants and panties down. I don't know which way these unknown scavengers are heading, but if they arrive in your neighborhood, make sure you're ready to defend yourselves, or move the hell out of there without being seen. Roger that,
said Roger. An hour and a half later, the mood was much calmer in the New Forest. Rachel had been sitting cross-legged on the grass, jotting down on bits of paper the most significant events from the past 2 days to add to her book, when she was interrupted by the flasher fast approaching and looking rather confused.
You're right, Amanda,
she said, using her woman's intuition, for she knew what little sister came to inquire about.
The prophecy, it's all legitimate, isn't it?
The flasher couldn't wait to ask.
Yes. The look on the old woman's face suggested she actually saw him. That's why I tried my best to bring her back with us. We can't keep this a secret any longer. We have to warn the others. Okay, we'll get some rest first. It's been a long, confusing night for us all. Tomorrow we'll let everyone know what we're dealing with. Make sure.
The flasher replied, dropping 2 sleeping bags on the grass.
We'll sleep here tonight,
she said seconds later. The 2 sisters put their heads down, and within minutes they lay fast asleep. The watchmen took to the trees again to keep watch from their various posts, but around 2 hours later, Rachel was awakened to the sound of what appeared to be distant explosions going off, for without her knowing, tripwires had been kicked and trampled on, setting off bombs from around 3 miles away, leaving the guys on the night watch speechless as they peered through their binoculars and high-tech sniper lenses, studying the initial shock of what had just happened. In response, a code red was immediately declared, causing a few of the men to abandon their posts and flee on their motorcycles to warn the others. Whilst most of the civilians had already been awakened from the commotion, rubbing the sleep out of their eyes, wondering what's going on. Minutes later, the second in charge abandoned his motorcycle to come running over to Michael, but in the midst of the confusion he stood speechless, trying to catch his breath to deliver the terrible news.
What the hell's going on, Martin?
We got zombies in the perimeter.
Whereabouts?
They're everywhere. They've broken through the 3-mile region in every direction, setting off every booby trap bomb we'd placed in and outside the area, causing every single stun grenade to go off too. Within the zone, the scouts up ahead of us are already falling back to the 2-mile territory. It's a goddamn ambush, I'm telling you.
He paused, shaking his head, and continued whilst feeling very doubtful.
I can't see an easy way out of this one. They aren't stopping for crap. We're all going to die.
How many savages have entered the forest?
I don't know, Mike. The men up in the trees are reporting record numbers of maybe 4,500 or more, with at least 300 presumed dead. But that's not all these bastards are green. What do you mean? Listen to me, Mike. I haven't been drinking. In fact, I haven't had a single drop for 2 days, but believe me, I bullshit you not. Our surveillance cameras are filming us being approached by an army of greenish, bald-headed zombies, armed with baseball bats, cordless power tools, pickaxes, and axes, wearing nothing except boxer shorts. And they'll be where me and you are standing within the next hour or so. And trust me, they haven't come to say hello and express their friendship neither.
What's going on, Mike?
Rachel demanded to know after abandoning her sister sleeping on the grass.
We're about to be ambushed by 4,500 green zombies.
Have you two been drinking again?
I wish we were.
Martin replied as they dumbfoundedly stood staring at one another. Seconds later, the sound of Michael's miniature CB radio crackling away in his trouser pocket caught his attention.
Keep quiet.
He yelled at the two people standing before him, who've already been silenced, as a voice bellowed through the radio's receiver, with heavy gunfire echoing in the background.
Mike, do you copy? This is Colin Ruby.
Roger that.
I can't hold them much longer there on top of my tank. We're wedged between trees and have locked ourselves in, but they're using some sort of high-tech power tool to cut our hatch open. My brother has killed 100 or more with the machine gun and is shooting as we speak. I've managed to flatten half a dozen. Our tracks have been disabled, and the little gremlins have blocked my cannon with a large rock or something.
What happened, Colin?
We were picking up ground vibrations with our radar equipment and raced to identify the source of the activity and found it.
What did you find?
They've taken down trees and used them to destroy our escape route, blocking us in. We tried to clear a path but ended up being stuck. It will take a week to move the mess they've made. The only way out is through the landmines and various traps we laid, else no one's getting out this place. The little savages are everywhere carrying weapons. This has been one hell of a calculated attack. Stand your ground and let them bring the fight to you. It's the only chance you got.
Colin paused for a moment and continued.
Mike, are you still there?
Roger that, loud and clear.
They're almost in. I can't stop them.
Copy that, Colin. Under no circumstances do you let them take possession of your tank.
He commanded with a lump in his throat. While Rachel and Martin stood by listening to the conversation, they knew what Mike was asking from the two brothers. The risk of the zombies using their own weapon against them was too overwhelming to even think about. But little did they know the two brave soldiers weren't about to let that happen. They'd already rigged the armored vehicle to light up like a Christmas tree.
Mike, do you copy?
Roger that.
It's been a pleasure fighting the war with you as our leader. Thank you for saving my life. Here's my chance to return the favor. Tell the two sisters I love them both, and let the Flasher know she's got the finest pair of misshapen pyramids I'd ever seen, and I would have liked to have known them better. But I'm just a kid, It seems my batteries are about to run out before her legend even begins.
Colin explained, sounding like a poor cover version of Elton John's classic hit Candle in the Wind. Seconds later, a loud explosion shook the forest, sending a flame of at least 70 zombies 100 feet or more into the air, with at least one of them still holding the tank's hatch, which decided to go flying too. And it was as obvious that a much more advanced civilization, or a bunch of bored aliens built the pyramids thousands of years ago, that the two brothers had blown themselves up to stop the zombies from using their tank against them and to give the rest of the resistance a fighting chance. The explosion brought tears to the eyes of Rachel. For Colin and Amanda had been close. In fact, he was forever trying to get even closer, but fell short on meeting the right criteria. She preferred someone older as opposed to someone younger, but nevertheless he came to worship the ground she'd walk on.
How do I tell the flasher?
Rachel asked herself before placing her weary head on Michael's shoulder, causing them to embrace, wrapping their arms around each other, with neither of them wanting to let go.
What the bloody hell's going on here?
Martin said to himself, standing by awaiting his orders. He was hoping the pair of them didn't forget they were cuddling in a potential battlefield and start ripping each other's clothes off and making love in front of him. Moments later she pulled away, but not before whispering,
I'm scared.
and unto her and Martin's amazement, Michael announced he's also afraid.
Come on, Mike, nothing ever frightened you. What could make you feel that way?
Rachel asked, wiping a tear from her left eye, which turned up late.
Don't get me wrong, lady. I don't mind dying or sacrificing my life for a good cause, saving you or the Flashers' lives, etc. I'm just terrified of waking up after I'm dead, green, bald, and running about the countryside and the streets of London in a pair of boxer shorts. This country's way too cold for that crap.
Michael explained his theory whilst holding on to Rachel's hands and still staring into her eyes. In return, she produced the most beautiful smile he'd ever seen, causing Martin to contemplate throwing a bucket of water over them as he continued to watch the pair getting fruity with each other.
I think it would be an excellent idea if you two stopped fooling around. Remember, the zombies are still coming for dinner.
He said, having witnessed enough romance for the evening. Somehow his words got through, for Michael switched his mind back to killing savages mode. The thought of jumping on Rachel had left his brain. Well, kind of.
I need you to gather the squad. Wake your sister and all the other women snoring away. Bring them to me now. We don't have any time to waste.
He ordered Rachel. And after she marched off, he turned his attention to his right-hand man.
Are your men repositioning themselves in and around the 2-mile area?
Yes, even as we speak.
That's good. They need to hold the zombies in the trenches for as long as they can and fall back 1 mile and maintain their positions. 600 yards into the mile zone, I require at least 70 of your brothers on standby. Tell them to reposition themselves high level and open fire on anything that resembles a cannibal, and to provide cover to any of your guys falling back. I don't wish to see anyone caught in the crossfire. The rest of your snipers and archers I need up in the trees 900 yards from this point. When the savages arrive, cut the ropes and let the net fall on them, and keep them there for as long as you can. Our second line of trenches won't hold them. Once they're filled with impaled cannibals, the surviving will walk over them. When the 300-yard zone is breached, we'll drop everything we got left on them. Light them up with our RPG grenade launchers and petrol bombs we made earlier. and anything else we can get our hands on. Kitchen sinks if we have to.
Say no more, I know what to do with my men.
Martin interrupted. Having felt the need to rush to his motorcycle, he'd been given one hell of a task to fulfill and knew he was running low on time. A few minutes later, Amanda had fully awakened, well, almost, but nevertheless, she stood before Michael, rubbing the sleep out of her eyes with the remaining civilians, which had now gathered around awaiting their orders.
Okay, people, listen up. We gather the vehicles and form a circle bumper to bumper right here, and make our stand shielded between the trucks. Nothing comes in and nobody leaves until I say so. Now get to work.
Michael demanded, and while sensing the end was near,
We're doomed.
he said unto himself. The resistance had long prepared for the day when an advanced zombie army would arrive, knocking at their door. In preparation, they'd rigged the park with various traps designed to maim and kill. In fact, they'd set so many devices they made it impossible for themselves to go walking about. The forest was a big landmine, waiting for some poor person to step on, as far as the vigilantes were concerned. One safe way in and out, which the zombies had conveniently destroyed to their advantage, leaving the civilians no choice but to stay and fight. 20 minutes was all the resistance needed to get into their positions, ready to face the unknown zombie type of creatures. Meanwhile, the determined to live after death savages have halted their advance to receive their new strategic battle plan from their master, the one and only skeleton, who's just stepped down from his stallion in a very foul mood. Despite making excellent progress toward the resistance stronghold, he's been upset over an earlier incident involving 12 zombies. In fact, he was still having trouble believing it actually happened. After he was being so nice to them, they still had the audacity to try feasting on his horse, minutes after they'd stopped for rest a few hours ago. He'd only just switched his supernatural vision off because he doesn't have eyes and eyelids to close to get some shut-eye, but feeling something wasn't right, he turned it back on around 5 minutes later, only to be horrified by what he was seeing. Two zombies sitting on his horse trying their best to weigh him down, assisted by another 10 dragging him by his ears, tail and feet. 5 seconds was all it took for him to draw his sword, as his poor heart couldn't take any more, even though he didn't have one, which made about as much sense as having an ashtray on a motorbike. But anyway, a full minute was all he needed to defuse the situation, putting an end to the madness which led to 12 horse meat-loving zombies, headless and dead lying in pools of blood where they'd fallen, causing a flock of savages to come gathering around, taking turns to snap up a chunk of flesh. Even though the incident happened a few hours ago, he was still furious and ready to kill anything that moves.
Bunch of no-good zombie toe rags. Now I know why the bloody bitch, sorry I meant witch, makes them walk around half nude. It's to prevent them from stealing and hiding stuff.
He said unto himself, and was most probably right too. Even though the skeptics stated Bicella had a fetish for being surrounded by half-naked living dead people, wearing nothing but boxer shorts and Wellington boots. After thinking things through, he issued his orders to his unloyal, crooked men, who commanded the army to be fit and ready to charge the enemy's positions within the next 30 minutes. Earlier on, the savages pulled straws, with 300 or more of them pulling short ones, and ended up agreeing to have themselves doused in petrol to embark on a suicide mission, clearing away the remaining landmines and other unforeseen traps that give their troops carrying chainsaws, baseball bats, golf clubs, hammers and pickaxes a clean run. The unfortunate 300 had reconsidered their proposal and weren't finding the current situation too amusing, and were left feeling rather glum, as if the skeleton had abused their undead zombie rights to the limits. But Mr. Skull and Bones knew he wouldn't get them to undertake another suicide mission just like that. Oh no, in fact, hell no, some were saying to themselves after the heavy casualties they'd already taken, when they went running into the unknown enemy's territory and were met with more than a few nasty surprises. And whilst they'd argue among themselves over who was going in first, the skeleton prepared himself to draw his sword again. But he kept his cool this time, demanding Bichella's top henchmen sort the situation out, or else their heads would be served on a plate to the rest of the army to feast on.